I've been dieting since I was 9 years old, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. But at the age of 53, I found myself with 25 pounds that were hanging on and were stuck like Chuck. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 brutal truths that I've learned after a lifetime of personal dieting, a long medical career of helping patients lose weight, but also finally successfully losing my own 30 pounds after menopause. Brutal truth number one, despite the fact that there are so many other things that we can track now and be aware of, like our gut health and our inflammation and even our glucose and our insulin. The fact is that the only thing that will produce weight loss in a human is eating less calories than we need to burn every single day. We really actually do need to eat less and move more. Now, I know you're going to hate me for saying that because I am frustrated with that too. Just because it's biologically true doesn't mean that it is easy. Getting ourselves to do it is incredibly tough, but don't get distracted with a lot of other things and think that they are more important. I wore a continuous glucose monitor for a lot of 2024, and it was a really powerful tool. It helped me lose weight, but not because I made the glucose line look pretty. It helped me lose weight because by making the glucose line look pretty, I was doing things that were leading to me eating less calories. And this leads me to brutal truth number two, which is that it's not a biology mystery, it's a behavior mystery. We have brains that are powerfully driven to eat, relax, reproduce, and not burn any more energy than we need to. So if you are like me and you've been beating yourself up for years because what you really want to do is lay on the couch and eat ice cream right out of the carton while you quickly push the button for the next episode, you're normal. You have a perfectly functioning human brain. The mystery is, how do we short circuit all of that programming to get us to do those things, which were very helpful, right? When we were living in prehistoric times and there was no grocery store and we didn't have cars, but now we have the same brain driving around in a world of plenty. I know for me personally, I don't want to white knuckle it through. I don't want to use willpower. I want to desire it less, right? I want to literally just think less about eating the things that are not going to get me to my health goals. So if I don't want to rely on my willpower all the time to overcome that primitive part of my brain that just wants to seek all the pleasure and do all the resting, then what do? And that leads me to brutal truth number three, which is behavior change usually takes time. The vast majority of people give up too soon, but there are two situations where behavior change can actually happen really quick. One of them is a complete environmental change. This is literally the purpose of alcohol or drug rehab. We know that human behavior is more likely to change in a completely different environment because our environment around us really powerfully cues us to keep doing whatever it is we've always done in that environment. I can alter the environment inside my house to make it a little bit easier to lose weight. But if you are completely not able to or willing to alter your environment at all, you might need to accept change in baby steps, which is also a totally acceptable way to get success. I used to hear this so much when I was helping patients stop smoking. Everyone who's ever struggled to stop smoking and started and stopped and started and stopped has a friend who quit cold turkey on a dime and loves to tell that story. Well, I quit on a dime and that's what worked for me. That's not the only path to success with smoking cessation or with weight loss. Small steps count also, and many people find it is their path to success. The other thing I've seen work, and this is also evidence-based, is what I call an epiphany or a powerful story. So going back to the smoking cessation example, I can't tell you how powerful grandchildren are or children. I've seen so many patients make massive health changes, sometimes in a very short amount of time for kids. And sometimes not even their own kids, their kids' or their nieces from their nephews. But having that powerful story is something that can really help quickly change behavior. Do you have a story that this is important, that it's powerful, that it's going to massively change your life? It's also important to realize that if you don't want to change any single thing about your environment, nothing, like not what you're shopping for, not what's in your house, not the route that you take to the grocery store, you're probably going to have a difficult time changing your behaviors. And it's not because you don't have willpower, it's because you're humaning. Brutal truth number four is that the diet industry and the anti-diet movement are both hurting us. I'm so frustrated with this. We're so caught in the middle. If you're like me, you grew up as part of the diet industry. And then here in the 2000s, you learned that that was actually terrible, that we were being emotionally abused, that diet means restriction and beating yourself up and telling yourself that you're bad. And, the advent of the almond mom, if you haven't heard of that, go ahead and Google that up. But basically, that's a mom who's constantly policing or watching and making sure that her kids are not having too much junk food. But yet, if we let them eat whatever we want, if we let ourselves eat whatever we want, we're criticized for that also. So if we restrict, we're criticized. The anti-diet movement is the one who frowns upon almond moms and says you're not supposed to restrict at all. That means you don't accept yourself and you don't love yourself. I am actually no longer afraid of the word diet. To me, it just means loving boundaries. And that's something that I use a lot with my clients and in our community. You don't have to say the word diet, but let's have loving boundaries, okay? We can't expect ourselves to just let our primitive brain run free all the time and not have any consequences. And what's funny is there's a jillion other areas of life where we don't have that expectation and we don't think anything of it. So I reserve the right to put loving boundaries on my intake, my nutrition, my fitness, my behavior, my alcohol intake, whether or not I try to fly off the house, whether or not I wear seatbelts or how fast I drive down the interstate. These are loving boundaries. And I reserve the right to put them all on myself to get the health outcomes I want. So diet industry, anti-diet industry, I'm done with you all. Thank you. Next. Okay, brutal truth number 5. Genetics are unbelievably powerful, but the vast majority of people can at least improve upon their genetics with really good nutrition and lifestyle habits. In lifestyle medicine, we like to say that you can out-eat and outrun a lot of your genetics. So maybe if you're like me, you haven't run except like from a dog 10 years ago, outwalk. I'll outwalk them. Science and studies have shown us that people from an enormous variety of genetic makeups can thrive medically with good nutrition and lifestyle. And that means essentially moving enough, having good stress relief, sleeping well, having strong community bonds, and eating a diet that is largely made up of whole foods that are not overly processed and contain a lot of plants. So if you think you have bad genetics or a family history that's got a lot of medical problems in it, don't give up. Brutal truth number 6. Diet gurus will all tell you that their way is the best way for the vast majority of people. And if you're not getting good results, then you just need to do it harder. Okay, I'm so sorry. I think I've actually been guilty of this. I'm really, really sorry. If I ever said to you that you needed to do it harder, I'm sorry. Here's what I mean by that. Why is that bad that you just need to do it harder? Yeah, you're right. If everyone adhered to every single diet perfectly, yes, we would get a 100% response rate. But again, go back and see brutal truth number 2. It's not the biology that's a mystery. It's the behavioral part that's a mystery. We have learned more and more, though, that genetically there probably is a wide variety of ways that our bodies handle different macros, different micros. I think of it as like the fine tuning of each person's genetics. In general, most humans work the same, but there's probably a fine tuning aspect where some people might do better on a slightly higher starch, lower fat approach. Some people might do better on a slightly higher healthy fat, lower starch approach. Not to mention different childhood upbringings, different messages about food in your home, different emotional coping techniques that we all learned around food. And when you layer all that together in this giant yarn ball, it's impossible to say that one single exact approach is not just going to be a good biological fit, but a behavioral fit. We've learned so much during the recent surge of the GLP-1 agonist drug class about something that so many of us have known who've serial dieted through our whole lives, but it was really rewarding for me to the first time hear the medical community talking about this thing called food chatter. Food chatter. And for those of you who've ever struggled with serial dieting, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is literally the want, like how bad do I want it, right? And so I remember looking at other people in life who were thinner than me and they made it look so effortless. And I would think, why is it so easy for them? I just have poor willpower. They're obviously stronger than me. And now, you know what we know? They're probably not. They probably have different food chatter. So if you have, by your own estimation, failed a diet or a coach or a diet guru or someone else has said, you're just not trying hard enough, just take a step back and with a little grace, just take a breath and go, they're not actually in my head living with my genetics my thoughts, my exact fiber inside of my head, I may need to tweak this approach a little bit to work a little better for me, as long as you're not adding something that has scientifically been proven to be dangerous. Brutal truth number 7. In my observation, the two most important predictors of someone's success on a particular healthcare journey on a particular diet are their environment and how much they're willing to alter it, and the people that they hang out with most frequently. So again, this goes back to not wanting or having to use willpower all the time, but wanting to get a new autopilot, like just being able to live in your house with someone whose goals are similar enough and the home is set up so that you just kind of do the things that get you the health that you want. Doesn't that sound dreamy? And that can actually happen and be constructed. But again, there has to be a willingness to begin to alter your environment a little bit. And one real power move is to get someone on board that you live with. Get them on board doing the same things that you're doing. That is actually a magic combo. It doesn't have to be a spouse or a partner. It can be a kid, preferably a adult or a teenage kid. And short of that, a friend group works great also, some kind of community. I tell my patients and clients, if you want it to be hard, do it by yourself. Brutal truth number 8, you might have to revisit some tools or tactics that in the past you poo-pooed, but that now might actually work. Take my own self, for example. In the past, I had really poo-pooed intermittent fasting. I had tried some multi-day fasting. I had tried the fasting mimicking diet, and I made a big fat F on those, as in failed, blocked, freaking hated it, do not recommend. And honestly, I know tons of people who do it easily. So that's just goes to show that different people are different, and that's completely great. This time I revisited it because things were different and what I used to always do wasn't working. So I actually started skipping breakfast, revisited some time restricted feeding, and lo and behold, it worked. I'll talk about that more in another video. Brutal truth number 9, influencers and diet gurus frequently get very fascinated with what I consider to be some small part of nutrition, and they major in the minors. And what I mean by that is you can layer on so many lists of rules and things that you're supposed to avoid that you literally just feel paralyzed and give up. So some things are like finding every single hidden sugar molecule in the whole world and not including it in your diet. That can actually get incredibly tedious. It doesn't mean I don't read labels, but yeah, I'm aware. And I try to get rid of all major sources of sugar, but I don't put back every single thing that has like a gram of sugar in it. Other things that I've seen influencers like get really obsessed about that I think to myself, man, that's just like a huge cognitive load. Personally, I don't think that like a tiny bit of gelatin in a vitamin capsule is that big of a deal. I don't think that a tiny bit of anything, to be honest, if taken in tiny, tiny doses and has not been identified as a definite harmful molecule, honestly, I just think it's okay to come to a point where we're like, what's good enough look like for me? Good enough for me is 90% whole food plant-based and 10% ish. I'm not doing the math on that every day either, by the way. I'm eyeballing it. And 10% good enough, which is kind of some animal products, artificial sweeteners, a diet soda several times a week, using a plant-based protein powder to help me get some protein, which I use as an appetite control tool. And I'll tell you that one of the red flags that I listen for when I wonder if someone's majoring in a minor is a lot of sensationalism around something we never knew about this compound, and you really, really need to watch out for it. Now, I'm not saying that that's never proven to eventually be worthy, but that seems to come up so frequently now that if I really paid attention, I don't know what I would eat, to be honest. I think I would have to like move to a compound and just raise all my own food and have a milk goat. I don't know. But I live in the suburbs, girl. Like I am trapped here at the ATB. I've got to make it good enough to work in my everyday life, right? So go for 90-10. And finally, brutal truth number 10. Some smart and incredibly strong people are going to require medications to help them with energy balance and or the chronic conditions that can result from storing too much energy, which we frequently call overweight or obesity. Needing a medication and taking a medication is a powerful self-care step. It is not cheating. It is not trying to take the easy way out. And having an open conversation with your provider about medications and the lifestyle changes that should always go along with it is a powerful self-care thing for you to do. If you'd like to know more about how I lost 30 pounds after menopause, check out this video right here.